Okay, so anybody who's been following me for a while knows that I'm long-term bearish Tesla stock. And I know it sounds crazy, and it's like, how can you be bearish Tesla? And everybody else online, all the other influencers are just pumping this stock. It's like the number one stock in the world. Everybody wants Tesla stock. How can you be bearish Tesla stock? And I'm going to explain a few reasons why. And I must say that, recently I actually started to question myself, and I'm like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Tesla is a good investment. Maybe it is going to go to God knows what price. And, maybe Elon is a super, super genius and going to take this stock to astronomical highs over the long term, and make this company the biggest company in the world. And look, anything is possible. He made himself the richest man in the world in a very short period of time. So anything is possible, and who knows for absolute certain. But I will tell you this. The chart is showing some red flags. That's what I will tell you. So right now, some of the things I'm seeing is that we're getting a double top on the weekly right now. And we got a very clear resistance area right around here. We faked out slightly above this high, but it's a very clear resistance area around the $1,200 mark. And that was actually a lot of the analyst price targets in the past. And it seems to be a very clear resistance area of a lot of profit taking up there. A lot of upper wicks. Now we got a double top as of now on the weekly. On the monthly, we're getting a fake out above last month's high. We're rejecting this upper monthly Bollinger Band. And as of now, we're breaking below the red line on the monthly, the 4-month moving average. We're also starting to see a monthly divergence and pullback in the RSI. Even if you look back, we got a divergence here in the RSI compared to the highs seen in the past. And we're starting to see a little bit of weakness on the RSI as well. And we got fairly high volume near this high. Doesn't look like a volume climax, but you have to remember how expensive this stock is. Whereas back here, look how much volume. But you also have to remember how cheap the stock was back then. So the volume might have been a lot higher, but the actual dollar volume was probably less, a lot less, even though the volume was a lot higher. So dollar volume, getting a lot of volume up here. Let's just do some quick math. Last month, a few months back, 649 million shares traded hands. Multiply that by, let's just say an average of like $1,100 a share. And, if I'm calculating this right in my head, we're looking at around $700 billion traded hands that month. That's almost the total market cap of the whole stock. So a lot of money changed hands that month. Higher volume that month than many of the months back. And it was right at the high. The daily, it's possible we're getting a bit of a bearish head and shoulders over here, where we got our shoulder, our head, and we got another shoulder that appears to be forming over here. And this gap got filled, showing weakness as well. So this looked like an exhaustion gap to the upside because it gapped up. I don't remember if there was any clear reason that day why it gapped up. I think just selling more cars or something like that. And then it gapped up and went up initially, and then it flushed and sold off on that news after. And we're just seeing a lot of what appears to be a little bit of distribution up here. High volume. Look at this high volume up here. And there's just so much volume above the $1,000 mark. So much money changing hands up here. And I compare it to NVIDIA, where Same thing happened to Nvidia above the $300 mark. Look at Nvidia above 300. There's so much volume. And now, it's seeing a lot of weakness. Nvidia is down. It's in a bear market now. It's down over 20% from the highs. It hit a high of 346. Now we're at 265. That's a big pullback. It's over a 25% pullback. Tesla's not a 25% pullback right now. Tesla, if I just calculate this quick, we're probably about 18% from the all-time high, 17, 18%. But Nvidia trapped a lot of volume above the $300 mark, and you can clearly see that anytime it was kind of reaching above that $300 mark, it was getting sold off recently, and it's in a clear downtrend. We got high, low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low. Essential double top there. Again, another lower low, lower high. It's in a downtrend, clearly, Nvidia. And Tesla appears to be on that same trend, on track to start the same trend as a lot of these other big tech names that are very high priced. So we got a lot of volume above $1,000. And I think the market's going to trap a lot of that volume in the red, just as they did with Nvidia, with all the volume above 300. Getting a bearish MACD cross here on the weekly, bearish divergence on the RSI on the weekly. So multiple bearish signs, bearish divergence on the RSI, bearish MACD cross, a lot more volume above the $1,000 mark. A little bit of a spike on that monthly high. Okay, fake out above last month's high, a double top on the monthly, double top on the weekly. Declining volume on the monthly thus far on the decreases, which shows a lack of buying pressure or declining interest as the stock pulls back. Combine that with, and if any of you watched my NASDAQ video that I just dropped, we're seeing a lot of bearish signs in the NASDAQ. And we're got the potential for rising rates. Not a good thing for growth companies in general. The company had, was the recalling over 500,000 calls. Maybe a minor thing, but it's still very expensive recall. I'm sure it's over 500,000 cars. That's more cars than they made last year, or it's around the amount of cars they made last year. It's a lot of cars, regardless. I don't know the exact number to compare it to, but it's a lot of cars that they got to recall. It's going to cost them a lot of money. The car business in general is normally a low profit margin business because expenses are so high. Steel, copper, lithium, factories, transportation, workers. The expenses are typically so high. Now, I'm not exactly sure, how Tesla appears to be profiting on their financial statements, which is why I started questioning myself. I'm like, is this stock really a bubble? I don't know, but I just have this hunch that they're playing around with their financials somehow. They're doing something. Before they were using credits from selling green credits to put them in profits. I'm not exactly sure what they're doing now, but Elon, he is a smart man, so I wouldn't be surprised he figured something out to prop those numbers up. But Elon is starting to sell, and maybe he had to, or according to him, but he's starting to sell, and he sold quite a bit of shares, 10% of his stake. I don't think he needed to sell that much. So I think, when the CEO is starting to sell, and he's been holding for 4 years, and when you look at the insider trading, and a ton of other insiders have been dumping shares, and then you look at the recall, and then you think Elon sold a bunch of shares right before they announced the recall, which is interesting. Now just look at this chart. I mean, how could you not think that's a bubble? I mean, you don't see this often in the market. This is a huge parabolic move. This is like the COVID crash, I think, right there. It looks like absolutely nothing. I think that was a bear trap and just been rocketing. The stock is clearly overpriced. Let's put it that way. I mean, their PE ratio is in the 300s. That's a very high PE ratio. It's extremely high. I mean, compared to something like Apple, and even Apple is overpriced right now, in my opinion, but not nearly as overpriced as this. But Apple has a PE ratio in the 30s, and it's overpriced. This is in the 300s. That means you need to pay over $300 to get $1 of profit per year. That's what price to earnings equates to. So if something's a PE ratio of 10, that means you're paying $10 for every $1 of profit that the company makes. With Tesla, you're paying over $300 for every $1 of profit the company makes. Now with those recalls, with all the expansion that they're trying to do, their profits might be lower, or they might even be in the negatives. I don't want to dig too deep into the stock because there's so many factors at play. But what I will say is that it looks like a double top. We're getting bearish divergences, bearish MACD cross, higher volume up here, over 20% declines in other big tech names. I mean, take a look at Shopify. This stock lost a huge chunk of its value recently, around 40% of its value. It hit 2,200 Canadian, and now we're down to 1,300. So lost a huge chunk of its value, broke its long-term uptrend, breaking into the lower monthly Bollinger Bands for the first time ever. So we're seeing red flags there. And if stocks like this are dumping off and NVIDIA is dumping off, and NVIDIA as well looks like a bubble to me. And I think NVIDIA is impacted by crypto because, they're selling so many GPUs because crypto mining. But, as crypto is cooling off, and to me the bubble is popping in crypto, or what I believe to be a bubble is popping in crypto, it's going to affect the semiconductors as well, demand for their semiconductors, and we actually might start to see resale and prices go down. So we can go from a shortage to potentially an oversupply. But anyways, wasn't here to talk about NVIDIA, but what I'm saying is Tesla is very heavily correlated with a lot of the other big growth stocks, and a lot of the other big growth stocks are taking a big hit, much bigger than Tesla took recently. So I think Tesla will follow along. I see bearish signs on the chart, the double top, the divergences, bearish MACD cross, high volume up here, exhaustion gap. I throw in bad news, the recalls. I mean, that's not something you can just completely ignore. Over 500,000 recalls. It's not like, it doesn't matter. I think it matters, to be honest. And then the rising rates, and then the bearish action in QQQ. So it's not like I'm just like, Tesla, it's garbage, it's going to go down. No, there's like several reasons and factors at play here that I think will drive the stock lower and in at least the near term. And my target is around this 780 mark, which is the 50-week moving average, which is a long-term support level. You could see it was kept bouncing off it over here. I think we're headed to there in the coming weeks, to the coming months. I think we're headed to that 780 mark. It might be a little bit higher by then. What's key is that the bulls are going to want to hold this level, which is 886. So bulls are going to attempt to hold that 886. That's a critical level, because a break of that level would effectively have a double top with a lower low. Like I was showing on the NASDAQ, we got a double top with a lower low right here. And a break of this low would mean Tesla set a lower high, lower low, and start changing the long-term trend, which it has not for a very long time. It was always on an uptrend. Even back here, this was a flush down, but it never set a lower high, lower low. It was just a flush down, higher low, higher high, double bottom, uptrend. This, if we break 886, that changes that weekly longer term trend. So that's a key level that bulls are going to want to be watching. So we'll leave it at that. I don't have anything against the company particularly. I mean, there is things I don't like. I don't like that Elon wants to put a chip in people's brains, and he mentioned, you can summon your Tesla with your brain. I don't know if he was joking or being sarcastic there. I don't think the world's ready for that yet. But, and to do that, and first of all, Tesla doesn't own that company. It's completely separate, Neuralink. But, I think to do that, to enable people that have paralysis and stuff to walk would be amazing. But it sounded like he was talking, like the way he said it in that conference was that he wanted to make it affordable so that everybody can have a chip in their brain. And that threw me off to his motives. He's smart, but maybe he's too smart. We got to be careful here. So that threw me off. Also, the cars in general, I'm not a huge fan of them. The only thing I'm a fan of is that they're electric and that the self-driving, which I've heard a lot of accidents here and there in regards to the self-driving. I don't think it's fully ready yet, but they are probably at the forefront of self-driving right now. There is a few other companies doing it, but Tesla is obviously, to my knowledge, at the forefront of the self-driving car game right now. So there's a few things I like, a few things I dislike. I don't like that Elon pumps Dogecoin, but I don't think it's a major deal, but, to me, Dogecoin is a worthless asset. So pumping that, I don't know if it's a really good idea, because at the end of the day, I believe a lot of people got burned and will continue to get burned on that. But that's what we're watching on Tesla. I'm noticing this now. We could potentially draw a long-term uptrend line around all these supports here. And let's see where that takes us. Mid $800 mark, which would be just a break of that low if we do pull back and test this level. And that'll be a big thing for the bulls to keep an eye on. So we shall see. I believe this stock is due for declines. But you never know. This stock has surprised me in the past. I'm planning to profit on puts on Tesla, but I'm not going to hold. I'm going to day trade, get in and get out, get in, make money and get out, because you never know. Just in case, to protect myself, I took some puts today, cashed out some profits at the end of the day, and tonight I'm risk-free. Tomorrow I can make new decisions, and we'll see what I do tomorrow. So I'm going to leave it at that. At the end of the day, make your own decisions. Nobody knows everything. I don't know everything. But I'm quite good at reading charts, and I do see a lot of red flags up here, and it is correlated with other growth stocks such as Nvidia and Shopify, and those stocks have not been doing well at all. Look at Shopify, brutal. So I don't think Tesla would just go completely unscathed, especially considering some of the bad news surrounding it, and especially considering the rising rates. But we shall see. Good luck in your trading ventures.